Hey y'all.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Good, good,
Excellent. Super
good.
excited to
Awesome.
be here.
Thank you. So I'm actually going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, your name, your profession, what country you're representing, and I'm going to start with Erica.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Erica Frey. My title is ex co-founder and designer of Peeny Wallie, and I am representing Jamaica.
Whoop, whoop.
Love Jamaica.
We
And
do.
my name is Cheyenne Lewis, aka Coco Sky. I have a swimwear line, Coco Sky Designs, and I make masks, and I am representing St. Croix and Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, VI and
Awesome.
TNT. Okay, so before we get into the actual interview piece, I am going to do a little game that I like to do with people. I'm going to ask a question, it's this or that, and you say which one of the two things or three things you prefer. And so, Eric, since you went last time, Cheyenne, you're going to go first for this one. Groovy soca or power?
Ooh, sorry, power. Definitely power soca. I'm one of those. I'm one of the, I want to jump up and down on the road the whole time, just the whole time. But groovy soca is cool too, but power soca is where my heart is. So
Got you. Erica.
I'm groovy all the way. Give me a nice sway. That's me. Don't get me wrong. I love a power, but groovy for sure.
Okay. Same. I'm mostly groovy because I feel like I can listen to groovy soca no matter what time it is. For power, like I think I have like a audio like a sensitivity because sometimes I'm just like this is too much. I can't. All right, at some point it has to turn off. But like definitely on the road, power for real.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Or when
it's
I'm
a
working out, like for sure. When I'm working out, running, absolutely.
Cheyenne. I don't know if you've had the both of these, but there's juicy patty and tasty patty in Jamaica. Do you have a preference?
I do. I like tasty patty. Thanks to Erica, introducing me to Jamaica. The first time I went to Jamaica was with Peeny Wallie.
Mm-hmm.
So they made sure to give me the full experience, and they definitely got me hooked on some tasty patties.
All
So
right.
You got it right. She's got
yeah.
it right. Absolutely.
Okay, they're the ones that sell it in the packaging, right? Like at the airport. Is that
Mhm.
them? Okay, so that's my favorite too. Cool.
Yes.
We're aligned. So when it comes to mass, big band or small band?
Ooh, small band.
Mm, I don't know. I don't think that's much of a preference for me. I guess I would do both. You know what I mean? I just like vibes.
Yeah,
It's more,
Yeah.
yeah, vibes, the costume. Yeah, that makes sense.
that's fair. I tend to gravitate towards small bands because we'll get into it. I don't want to get into the discussion, but sometimes big bands just sometimes I feel like they bite off more than they can chew, and it's always more of a headache with a number of things. So I tend to do small band. I also don't really like to be around a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also
Mm-hmm.
introverted, need my space, need my dancing space. And then I think my last question. This is a three-parter. Busy signal, cranium, or conscience? Erica's face.
Right. Everybody's like, hmm.
I'm really over here thinking conscience because I just think he's so sexy. I'm sorry. And that's where some of that was. Like I was just
Mm,
to that real quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good
I was
reason. I think
sexy.
I would go with yeah, he is. I think I would go with conscience too. Definitely.
mhm.
I think so.
Okay. Okay. I love all their music. I think I gravitate more to Busy Signal
Mhm.
because he just does like a friend of mine explained it really well one time. They were like, He can do romantic songs. He can do bad man tunes. He can, like 1 minute is a gunman
Right.
tune, and then the next minute you're talking about love, and the next minute you're talking about world peace. So I'm like, that's a good way. I do appreciate that. So
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
true.
All right, here we go. For real. Erica,
Hmm.
if you can share the Peeny Wallie origin story with us, like how it came about, when it happened, who it was with, all of those gems, because we want the goal of season 5 is to get people to have a better understanding of the carnival industry and what goes on like behind the scenes. And so it's like getting a deep dive into someone who ran a mass camp, who was a designer, all of those good things. So what's the origin story for Peeny Wallie?
This is a great story. I'm going to try not to go on and on about it. And as you know, I was reminiscing when you sent your questions along, it set me down memory lane. And, to give you some background for me, as you could tell my accent, I was born here in America, right? So, yes, I recognize and rep Jamaica. I am fully fledged on that because both my parents are from Jamaica. And when it came down to the, I would say, mass band and just soca scene, that wasn't something that I was really exposed to being an American Jamaican, right? And it wasn't until I was working professionally that I met some really cool Trinidadians who invited me in. Oh gosh, I don't even want to date myself, but I will. Let's say just over 10 years ago, over 10, 15 years ago, almost, yeah, over 15 years ago, to my first experience for Trinidad Carnival. And it just opened my eyes. Like I heard soca different, right? Yes, it's been around me all my life, but I heard soca different. And I had been going to Trinidad Carnival at that point for about maybe 5, 6 years when one day one of my friends was like, I heard Jamaica has a carnival. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, like, why aren't you inviting me to go to that? So I did some research, checked in with my family who were local, and they were like, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time now. Probably at that point, 30 years, right, or more. And so I said, okay, you know what, let me organize a trip. We organized a trip, and I said, this is it, right? So it was also one where I was trying to explore, as I had told you, I was working professionally, what I would be doing, things that I would love to do on the side, how I can merge my passion of creativity, which had always been there, and my love of soca at that stage, right? And one of the things that I had seen, and I don't want to ever badmouth any band, but one of the things that I had seen when I did go to Jamaica was the difference of how Jamaica Carnival was set up versus Trinidad, and the production itself, right? Clearly, Trinidad has things on lock when it comes down to the thousands and thousands of people. It's really ingrained in the culture. But me coming from my background of, I'm an operations professional in my professional life. I just saw that there were slight changes that could have been made where I felt like I could have done something to it just by influencing myself and getting involved. And I was able to connect with one of the mass bands and ask, how can I help? How can I help? And they were like, well, all you have to be is parents from Jamaica, check mark, I had that. And then the only other way that we're looking for things is if you want to do design. And I was like, I don't even know the first thing about design. How do I do that? And a really good friend of mine, one of the last friends that I had invited to Trinidad, my last Trinidad experience, I brought her along the ride. I won't name her name because she's not on here, but she's also the other co-founder of Peeny Wallie Mas. And she was like, we could do this. And she also had a design spirit as well. So what we did was we self-taught ourselves. And, we spent that year really just trying to figure out how do we create an actual costume? What would we want from it? How would we want that experience? And that's really what we focused on. This started in 2014. How do we want our experience to be? And we were very fortunate with the mass band. So that this was Bacchanal that we had worked with. And, you know, they allowed us that space and that creativity to bring about a boutique band. And that's how it started.
I know. Wow. Wow.
First of all, I didn't even know that it was so soon. Like I thought y'all had been doing this for years and years and years,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I played with y'all for the first time
Yeah.
in 2016.
Yeah.
So I didn't
That
even
was
real
our
and I
second year.
saw,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I saw 2015 that people had gone and played with you all. So I just thought that
They were so
maybe,
excited.
yeah.
Truly,
So,
they were so excited because we were offering something that was different.
mhm,
You know, they were very used to, and I'm glad, well, you could decide to put this on. You know, they were used to, I'll just say the dysfunction of
mhm,
registration, right? And when they saw there was an offering, because I don't think there were many boutique offerings for Bacchanal before we had decided to do it. And we really catered to the small group. So we knew that we can only handle, let's say, 50 people just with who we had, and we said we want to make sure that it's an individualized and custom experience because that's what we want for ourselves. And folks were excited. They were like, "Oh, this is different." And as you can see, we decided to do registration separate because we couldn't influence the change at the actual mass band itself. They were very used to doing things a certain way. So they gave us the latitude to be like, okay, if you want to do this, figure it out. And we did. Yeah.
I loved it. Because you
Didn't know
already heard
that.
me say that I do small bands. And I was like, oh, what? Oh, there's a word for it, boutique. I like that word. Let's,
No,
let's
I love
do it.
that. I love that. I didn't know. That's a part I didn't know, Erica.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Cheyenne, how did you get involved with the band? Like what were your interactions? How are you associated with them?
So the way that we came together, I was a model for We Kind of Ting for a couple years, and I was just very interested in making masks and how it's done, past the modeling part of it. So I asked if Penny Wallie needed any help, and they brought me on. Um, I was more of the mask making person. So like I was the one doing the wire bras and jeweling. They taught me how to build wire bras, jewel them. I wanted to learn how to sew, but that was too much at that time for me. But they they basically gave me the inspiration to have Coco Sky Designs. Like I don't know how to explain it, but they're the reason. Like they inspired me to do it. To sew, to want to make masks and things like that. So that's really how I got with them. And then after a while of making masks for them, I they flew me to Jamaica for the first time, and we built the backpacks, and they showed me the things there too. So um, yeah, that's really my story with Penny Wallie. Until they decided to leave.
Oh
I
my
feel the same
God,
way.
Diane, you just like as you're speaking, it really just made me think about how we came to know you and how I mean, I just have to say you were this little sheltered girl. Like Cheyenne did not even have a passport until we were like, hey, you're coming to Jamaica with us. We like literally had to speak to her parents and everything.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
And
yeah.
she had never left the United States beforehand. And
Mm,
one thing's for sure for anyone who's involved in mask making, this is a labor of love. Like you have to really love this stuff because,
mhm.
depending on at what entry point you are or what you want to get out of it, it's not it can be a multi-million dollar making, but it's not one of those where at the start it is, right? And
Mm.
Right.
when you're looking at it, you're really doing it because you love mass, you love soca,
Yeah,
you love the energy of it all. So
yeah,
we're so glad that we were able to bring her along the ride.
yeah. Yeah, Jamaica is a whole different experience from St. Croix. So
Mhm.
whenever I go to St. Croix, it's it's just a different feel. I mean, of course I love where I'm from. You know what I mean? But Jamaica was just it was just such a different experience. Like the culture, the people, things like that. It's just, something I wasn't used to seeing. So I am very grateful for them to open that up for me. You know what I mean? And being able to travel and get to know other places and things like that.
Awesome student. Awesome student. Super.
So what I gathered from what you just said, Cheyenne, and I want to tell the people, she inquired, okay? She took the initiative and she went out and sought um, these two individuals to help them. So if you want to know how you can get involved, you can just, ask and note that it's probably not going to be a paid situation. You are going to volunteer your time to help and create masks. Like that's something that I wanted to do, but I didn't live close enough, right, to mask bands to do that. Like back when I lived in Jersey, I'm just like, I'm not driving, 45 minutes to Brooklyn every day or whatever to go and do this thing. But it's coming. Walk us through like the process, right, of say you're getting ready for the next year. So whenever it is that you start, what that looks like from getting the ideas together, then having, to band launch, to whatever designers, to fabric, like literally step by step, what's A to Z, Z being mass done, you get to relax or hopefully, right? So, because what does that look like?
You want all the gems, huh?
Mm-hmm,
Well, definitely, I can tell you there is a difference between mass band production and design. Definitely two different differences. And then also there is a difference between doing it in the US, which we've had experience with, versus overseas. And I say overseas for us because we
mm-hmm,
were basically bringing mass in Jamaica. And also we had some opportunities to assist people in other countries as well. So I will tell you that typically when it came down to the concept of what we wanted to do for the next year, it was based off of colors. We knew what colors we wanted to design. We didn't even think about the actual costume design until we decided on a color, right? And sometimes it would be based off of things that we would see, inspiration that we would have, just random conversations that we would have, but we would typically try to identify at least two, maybe three colors that we wanted to work with. And then that's when the design actually came about. And lots of trial and error. We definitely learned along the way. Literally each design we learned along the way as well. Like I said, had some good history of doing mass, and I like to collect everything that I love, right? So I call me a hoarder, but I would definitely look back at my old, let's say, costumes and say what elements from like of that did I like, right? And you're also a designer, Shamir. So you let me know whether or not you feel like there's inspiration in prior costumes, because definitely that's how we rolled. So, but clearly you don't want to take the same exact design. So there was always something that was a little bit different. We also gave some thought to the production time as well. So we spent a lot of time, I would say, the design phase after we had chosen a color could take anywhere between 3 to 4 months, typically. That takes time because you're trying to make sure that you could procure the materials, whether it be from the fabric, whether you're starting from scratch from the fabric. That's another question of how you're going to find that. Spent a lot of time in so I live in Connecticut, right? And I spent a lot of time in New York in the fashion district as well. So spent that time looking at some of the jewels and such. And then in the end, what we realized that those jewels that were there really didn't work for us, right? And my partner, who's my co-founder, she started doing some research and she found that going online and really working with some of the Asian overseas companies was really best for us. So we would actually make our own settings. So that's probably some of what you have seen too, Shamir, because that's what made us unique. We really loved the jeweling. We really loved our own custom settings. We knew that no one else had our settings because we literally created it. So a lot of that tended to start, the year prior, definitely. So let's say if band launch starts sometime season starts sometime in like December, November, December, we would be starting this process from at least May. And also making sure that we can actually get our materials in time, because when you're working with overseas vendors, you have to account for their Lunar New Year and shipping. So we learned a lot about that as well. And really just trying to keep in mind what we can accomplish with the design that we have and the time that we have. We definitely learned that along the ways, and as far as how long will it take us to make a front line, a back line, a backpack. We would literally time ourselves, because initially it was literally just the two of us, and sometimes we would hire people that were local here that we were training along the way too before we met Cheyenne, and that would help us. But for the most part, the engine was really just myself and my partner. And so that's why we would maximize how many people we would have in our boutique group, because we knew how much we could complete in that time. Now, I'm just talking about the design part. When you're talking about band launch, that was a whole nother beast that we weren't used to. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, what was great, my partner had lives and, still currently lives in Atlanta. And this is how we ended up meeting We Kind of Tingz. So with the designs that we had, it was definitely getting a lot of attention, because they were like, oh, wow, US-based company outside of, and, we branded ourselves in Atlanta, because nobody's hearing about Connecticut mass band, right? So, that was like our base. And so We Kind of Tingz found us because we also had played in their mass band as well. And they decided to actually take a break at one point, right? And this is where some of their former designers decided, you know what, we think we could break off. I won't name the designer because they're not on here. So we were cool with them, and they approached us and was like, let's do a band together. And we were like, this sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if we want to branch out of design. We're kind of comfortable in this space. And they're like, no, we have the experience on this. We could do this. And, I just love that support and camaraderie, as far as like, we're all so passionate about this. Like, one of the girls was very into design. The other woman was very similar to me, where she had like a business mindset. So she was like, we could do this. We're going to bring something different in Atlanta. And that's how that concept was made. So very similar concept. So at that point, we had to focus on not just design, but also preparation for mass, right? And so fortunately, we were able to leverage people who were very familiar with that market, because we would have never been able to do that ourselves. And when you're thinking about a mass band, there's multiple parts and bits that's involved in it. Like, it's so much that you have to plan and think about organizationally and logistically, that, thank God, I have some of that just innate in me, but it was amazing to think about. But fortunately, it actually went off really, really smooth our first year. We did it 2 years. Actually, no, we only did it 1 year. Yeah, we did it 1 year with them. But it was a really good experience, because what we saw was the lead up for it, right? The excitement for it, the local people who, basically either are not really interested in traveling abroad and want to have the same vibes at home, essentially there. So it was a very heavy support in the local Atlanta area for what we were doing. Like, I wasn't 100% clear whether or not we could make it, especially being new band designers. Basically, that's what we were, intersectioning in an existing market, knowing that we would be taking some of the market share. But it was totally fine, because it seemed like people who were in the local market were looking for something different. And so I think we entered at the right time. And So there was a lot that I think that we did not account for when it came down to the amount of what we sold out for. And what we did not plan for, one of the things was how much time it would take to do backpacks. So we learned a lot on that as well. Because, and I could say from a Peeny Wallie Moss perspective, we knew for, let's say we were doing less than 100 people, right? We knew that we could account for, with the staff that we had, let's say 60 backpacks. In Atlanta, the interest was so strong that we ended up selling out more than that. But to do a backpack takes a very specific skill. Not everybody can do that. It also takes time. So in the end, it ended up just being me, my colleague, Cheyenne, and who we can get, right? So,
My cousin.
we learned that year. And, your cousin came kind of late too, because we were like panicking.
Yeah.
That year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. When it comes down to both the design, the production, and the mass band part of it, those are three unique different parts that you have to plan for. So we learned a lot that year. Fortunately, we had and still have really amazing supporters. So people understood when we weren't able to deliver, right? Because we had to like be real. We had to be like, oh my God, we ended up in this situation where I think it was like maybe two or three backpacks that we couldn't do. But like, I would have hated for that to happen to me. But, we made sure that we told them. Of course, we refunded them. But, it was definitely a learning experience. And they were very gracious with us, thank God. But, yeah, that's what ended up happening to us that year. And we were like, seriously thinking, should we do this again? We were just so exhausted. We were like, we're good. Which is why we didn't do it that second year, because we were actually thinking about it. But, yeah, that 1 year in Atlanta was enough for us. And then we had decided we'll just stick to design, actually.
What's it like the day of mass, like on the road? Like, what are you doing? Are you able to fully enjoy yourself, or are you finding that you're like running around doing other things?
That is the final day you can actually enjoy face. Unfortunately, it ends up coming down to that time. You can actually breathe. I think when you're done is when that last costume package is picked up and you just want to crash, right? And depending on where you are, so like Jamaica, for example, sometimes we would have to opt not to go to some of the local parties, which kind of crushed my heart. But, but we made sure that we found some time to get in there. But the day of Carnival, yeah, we're not doing any of that because, again, most of our stuff is already done. And when you are doing a production, when you're overseas like us, right, and we're in Jamaica, we would definitely spend pockets of weeks where we would go to Jamaica and lead up for it to do our production there, or we would have people there who would be helping us, and we would make sure that we would oversee what they were doing. And so, we try to account for some of that so that we're not like literally doing it at the last moment. And then on the day of, on the road of, of course, we see people in our costumes. We see them. We want to help them. So, we're helping like tie their bra, or like, taking pictures with them. Folks were super, super excited to actually see the designers on the road with them. And, just spending a lot of time with that. And, we also thought, especially as a boutique group, people wanted to know who we were. And so we made sure that we would have like little things on the road for them as well. Just to make sure that it was unique as part of their experience. Because again, at the time that we were introduced to Jamaica, they didn't do those types of things on the road yet. I mean, some of that we saw in Trinidad, but they weren't really doing much of that on the road.
Yeah. I remember when you all used to post, like it would be like after I purchased like my costume or registered or whatever, and then I'd be like, oh, they're in Jamaica getting ready.
Yeah, like we were like, yeah, let's do something behind the scenes. Like, yeah, as far as when we would go to Jamaica, we would be in Jamaica at least 3, 4, 5 times in the year before we would actually go. Because it's a lot of production, and it made sense for us to make our costumes there than here, So yeah, we would account for that.
Am I hearing right that really you did everything, but the only thing that you kind of outsourced was
Yes.
the
Yep.
custom gems and
Yep.
stuff?
The
Is that
custom
right?
gens were the only thing that we outsourced that were produced because, clearly we're not makers of that. But the settings, we would actually work and design it. So we would work with them, getting through that language barrier as well, right? Where we would see, let's say, a design somewhere, right? It could be anywhere. It typically didn't start with a carnival design. It may have started with, let's say we were going through like a gem book or something, and then we would make some unique changes to it. So we would work with them about the things that we would want changed, the colors that we would want there, and they would work with us.
So Cheyenne, what would you say is like your absolute favorite part of the process as you're helping them with the
I
production?
would say seeing it on the road, seeing everything done, seeing all the customers happy, they're dancing in their costumes, enjoying themselves. You know, I think that's pretty much that's everybody's favorite part, right? Being done and being able to see that. Aside from seeing it on the road, for me, learning was a really big thing. So the whole process for me was amazing. And Penny Wallie made sure to make me feel very comfortable and, not just the worker, but it almost at one point felt like a family. Like I felt like I was like the niece and they were just like, hey, no, that's wrong. That's right. You know what I mean? So um, I'm grateful for all of it. So yeah, but seeing them on the road and seeing everybody getting on and, doing their thing, I love that stuff. I love it. I love it. So that's my favorite part.
Cheyenne was our
Awesome. And then you had
big gemmer. So she knew like every stone almost on every bra and every setting. And it's so funny because I remember at some points on the road, she'd be like, I put that stone there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Till this day, I'm a gemmer. That's a big thing for me. Like most of my pieces are my wire bras and they're all just over gemmed. Like I could never just put like a few on there. I just have to overdo it every time. But my customers love it. So yeah.
Yeah, gemming is important, man. You got to learn how to. It's definitely a skill. So you had mentioned earlier that you didn't really know how to sew. Did you like after that season? Did you finally get into sewing?
I started to learn how to sew during COVID. I started out with sewing masks for different companies. Whenever masks would run out, I was doing that by the bulk, getting some extra income from that. And I just decided, like, well, while I'm making masks, I'll just start sewing swimwear, little outfits, things like that. We just had so much time during COVID to do those things, and that's really how I do it. So everything that is on my page, any prototypes that I make for Carnival and things, I'm the one that sews all of my things. So.
So talk to me about that, right? So we are always, we being the audience, right? We're talking about, people always talk about prototypes and what designers are responsible for or not. So in your instance, do you just make that prototype and you leave it up to them to do all the replications, or are you then do you then go on site to help them
So when it
produce
comes
whatever it
to
is?
my swimwear and my custom orders, I produce all of those. They're made to order.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to me and masks, somebody else makes it. So I make my prototype, I make the feathered pieces and things, and then we have someone replicate it. Except the feather pieces. Actually, we still make the feather pieces. I haven't been able to go and trust anybody with that yet, but hopefully, I want to do something for 2024, and I want to be able to trust somebody to make my feather back pieces, because it is very time consuming and it takes a lot of work. So yeah, so no, they don't know. It's very. It's a lot. It's a lot.
When you're wondering, y'all, when y'all wonder why your backpacks cost 150, 200. Do know how many hours come into that. Like, backpacks are handmade. Like, that is not something that you could throw on a
Right.
machine.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I made one for my little cousin who was going in a pageant. And then I sped up the video when I posted it on TikTok to be like, I don't know, like a minute or something. And somebody wrote too fast. And I wanted to be a smartass and be like, do you really want me to sit up here and post this? Because it took like 5, you know what I mean? Like it takes a minute.
Yeah.
It takes a long ass time to make. I'm like,
It
you
does.
don't have the time for me to sit up here and post that. So no.
Mhm.
Proudest moment of Peeny Wallie Mass, Erica.
Ooh, the proudest moments. I've had so many, but I will say it had to be when I saw how my people really accepted us as designers. And we had an opportunity the second year after we had launched our first year, because this is when more boutique bands started to come about. And, you know, folks remembered us from the prior year, and we were showcased on local TV there, and we were in the newspaper. And I was like, I have family from down there call me, and they were like, Erica. And I mean, that just to me was like one of those things that was so indescribable in terms of a feeling where, you know, I could connect with my culture in that way. People could recognize me as like a legit business owner, a legit designer. And, you know, it was just beautiful.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That was beautiful.
What was the motivation behind pressing the pause button on Peeny Wallie Math? Because I know, like, when you were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna do anything for next year," I was just like, because and the next year I was like, "Well, I'm just not gonna play math then." Like, I refused because I was just like and I really don't do loyalty, but I was like, I am not going anywhere else as long as these women are still doing this thing, and I ended up just playing like t-shirt masks with Jamaica. And then after, I don't think I've gone back. I don't think I've gone back since. But even if like I'm sticking to just not playing mass. Like I'm okay with the fits. Oh, COVID happened, but yeah. So
Like COVID happened, right?
right.
The motivation, it wasn't really motivation, but you know, it was lifed. And you know, for me, personally, I got married, and once I had gotten married, it was very clear on I wanted to start a family. So, you know, had a very good conversation with my partner, you know, for Peeny Wallie Mas around where I was in life. And, you know, she respected and understood that. And she would spend some time in doing designs for others as well, because she's still a very creative person. And she also had things that shifted in her life that were different interests as well. And that would be the main reason why, like, life started to life. And once the pandemic hit, you know, right before the pandemic, we were really thinking, wow, you know what? Should we really consider that? At that point, right before the pandemic, I was actually pregnant. And so we were still talking about, all right, let's see if we can revisit this thing after I drop my baby, because, you know, I'm still about this life, right? I'm still about this life. But when you become a mother, it just changes your whole energy for everything, right?
Girl.
And during the pandemic is when I had my child. My child was literally born when COVID hit that week. And so I wasn't thinking about mask making, right? But I also saw the way how things went down for the world, right? So we decided to just watch, because it wasn't at that time we decided to put a pause on it. It was, you know what, Erica, you have your baby, you enjoy your child for that year. Let's revisit it towards the end of the year. So when the end of the year came, we were like, you know, I had a conversation with my partner. Then I was like, you know, I'm still not ready. I don't see how I could like realistically do this now. And so she was like, you know what, cool, let's pause again, right? And when we started to see after folks wanted to come back in 2021, how things started to go down, we were like, thank God we didn't do it.
Right.
I'm not even gonna lie. There was like a lot of craziness going on. And we were like, woo, we missed Thank God we didn't do this. And so, at the end of 2021, we were still thinking about it, and things started to shift for both of us. I also started to look at in my other professional life, because I have multi dimensions to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just different avenues for that. And in reality, I had to make a decision. I had to make a choice, like where I can actually put my energy.
Yeah.
And we decided that it was time, basically last year in 2022, that it was time to put a pause on it.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, I don't feel bad anymore because I don't know when I'm going to Jamaica again, but so I don't have that.
Well, we'll be there. We'll be
It
there
was,
next year. We will
sorry?
be there next year. We're not designing, but we will be
Oh,
there next year. So
okay.
I'm excited.
You about to change my whole year. Okay. Everything what I said.
We'll see what next year brings. It may end up being like, maybe we need to relook at, but we're
You
super
need
excited.
2025?
2020, well, maybe 2025. We'll see. I doubt
Okay.
it.
Okay.
But 2024 will be truly as spectators, and we're super excited about that because we haven't done that in such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got you.
Mhm.
Okay, so before we close out, real quick, what tips do you have for people who are interested in designing masks or having their own business like you do, Cheyenne, for making swimwear or mask wear, fet wear, whatever?
Um, I think the best advice that I could give is to just do it. Like, if you have any reservations, like you think you're scared, you think people won't accept you, you think your designs aren't good enough, like none of that matters. You just have to put yourself out there and be willing to learn and take constructive criticism from people. Um, one person might like your design, a couple people might like it, and a couple more people might hate it. You just can't let things like that discourage you. And just like how I got into making masks, I asked Penny Wallie if they were looking for an intern, somebody who is coming, who wants to come in, and I was willing to learn. So you have to ask. Like, and I'm still having that problem till this day, even, with mask bands, like, hey, are you guys looking for designers? Are you looking for Monday wear designers, things like that? I'm still having a little bit of trouble, putting myself out there. But next year is when I'm gonna press gas on that and make sure I get out there a lot more than I was in 2023. I've had some big stuff happen this year, but next year I definitely want to let people know who Coco Sky Designs is. So that would be Ian. Yes.
You got this, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not, I would mirror what Cheyenne had said is just do it. You have to start somewhere, right? You may not necessarily know exactly where you may fit along the production line. Like I said, we did not get into this with the thoughts of doing an actual costume.
Mm-hmm.
My thought was on the back end operations side. I had no idea that I had this part of my creativity in me and vision. And just be curious as well. Don't limit yourself. You have to be a constant learner. You have to be open to trying different things. And, let's say a resource or something may not be near you. YouTube is one of your biggest resources, believe it or not. That is how we learn to sew. YouTube, you hear me? YouTube is how we learn to sew. Lots of trial and error. You have to be patient with yourself as well. And then also organizing yourself. Organizing yourself could also mean being realistic about what you can do with the resources that you have, right? And so, yeah, hopefully that helps folks.
That'd be realistic part. But oh wait, y'all sold all of those?
We sold every single
That's right, because you did say the only thing that you outsourced was the gems. Oh wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
we sold every single piece. So, yeah. Down to the strings we did. We didn't listen. I don't know why we thought about doing strings, but we did. And we learned that the hard way in our second costume. We did it. I don't know why we did that.
Which was the
Trains are
second costume? Was that
the pink one,
one. That was the maroon and
maroon and pink. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. The desert themed one. That's the one that we were talking about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That was
Yeah.
before me, so I don't know. I was
Those
like,
were my first pair of wings. That was my first.
oh,
That was my first front line because I was like, oh, it's only $450. I can do this.
oh yeah. The
They don't cost
pricing,
that much.
you guys' pricing was A1.
It
Like,
was.
man.
Thank you. Thank
Now,
you. Get that in
Yep.
mind too. Like, yeah, the pricing is nuts. I'm like, geez, peace. Like, what? I'm it's Trinidad and Brazilian prices right now. It's crazy. But hey, do what you need to do.
Mhm. And I
everywhere.
don't need to play mass for that much. All right. Before we go, thank you, ladies. If you can, well, Erica, I know you're not really in the mass game anymore. So, but if you want to share your information, you can. But Cheyenne, just let everyone know where they can find your designs. If you have a website, if you have Instagram, just share all that with our audience so that we can get some love.
Okay. Yes, my personal page is Coco Sky, COCOASKYE_. And my design page is Coco Sky Designs. I don't have a website at this moment, but it is in the works to come back. I did have it and then I took it back down. So those are the two ways that you could reach me.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to post this.
What are you doing now? Are you doing you still doing jewelry? Are you doing wire bra pieces and stuff?
When you said when you said, I wrote it down. You said being a mother changes your energy. I was like,
You know what I mean? I didn't know that. I had no idea. I
when
didn't know
yeah,
that.
I
I
don't
knew
I
that was gonna change me.
I liked all of once I got the first couple of months of being pregnant, I just slept all the time.
Right.
And then after that, it was like my patience just went down because I was like, I don't want to deal with people. I'm a school administrator by day, and then I just do the podcast and my social media content stuff. And I actually have like a wire bra series that I'm doing on TikTok.
I love it. Mhm.
But I just feel like I'm trying to like give back in some way. Like I don't.
Yeah.
When I was starting, like there were so many people that were gatekeeping the information for wire bras. It was ridiculous. And I'm just like, I just asked you whether or not you use glue or tape,
Right.
right? And you're acting like I asked you for $1 million. So I'm just like, I can't. So
It's
I just,
crazy. It's
it's
crazy. I
ridiculous.
love that you're doing that because this is part of the culture. Like
Mm-hmm.
it truly is part of the culture. And when we were doing this, like I was showing my little sister how to make masks. Like I didn't learn how to do that. And when I learned about this part of Jamaica's history in terms of how it even started, that excited me too. Because
Yeah.
we're losing that part of our culture. That's part of storytelling as well. And so that's what excited me. And if you notice that each part of our costumes, we tied to like a story in some type of way. Like that
Yeah.
was part of like my creativity. So I'm with you on that, girl. And because of the love that I had for it, I didn't want to not do it justice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the reason why.
Yeah.
But
When y'all did the wire bras, did you do like the torch or did you do it with
no,
the
no,
tape?
no. No, actually, that is a good question. That is the one thing that we did outsource because
Okay.
we tried to do it ourselves. And because of the way how we wanted the look and feel for it, we intentionally had decided to outsource that
Mm-hmm.
to Trinidad. So those were the only two things. Anything that had to do with metal, we outsourced.
Got it. Yeah.
So Trinidadian designer who we worked very, very well with, and she designed multiple people's stuff. And
Mhm.
because we like the way of the construction with it, as you can see, you are able to take that apart and use it again and repurpose it. Like we
Yeah.
intentionally had worked with her because of that.
Yeah. Oh, duh. I did take mine apart. That's how I learned.
Everybody,
Yeah.
everyone did. Most people did.
Yeah.
Most people did. And I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much money are you spending on that thing?
Girl. Oh, all right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Later.